Hello, this is Dennis Black, and this is the first in a series of skill development sessions for the month of October. As you look at enhancing your sales skills, one of the most critical components that you run into is how to deal with either the realtor or the borrower, what is known as non-buying attitude. Now, there are three commonly encountered non-buying attitudes. I'm going to rank them in order of their difficulty, and we will address each one of them over the following 3 weeks. The first non-buying attitude, and the most challenging, is known as indifference. The second non-buying attitude, which we will address next week, is called skepticism. And the third and final non-buying attitude is a valid objection. Based on the order that they're in, let's start with the most difficult, indifference. Let me give you the definition so you have a better perspective of what indifference truly is. Indifference is the perceived level of satisfaction either a realtor or a borrower has with their current lending sources, and they see no need to change. So when you break down that definition, the most important component is the first word, perceived. As we all know, someone's perception can become, and more often than not, becomes their reality. So for us to have an opportunity to work with this customer, we have to modify their perception towards working with me as a lender. How do we do that? Well, not only do you need to understand the attitude, but the rationale behind it. So the first thing to understand is that people resist change for change's sake. You may have heard a phrase from your parents or heard it somewhere, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's a common mentality many have in their business life. So if things are going well with what they currently are doing, they don't seek change unless they are exposed to the opportunity that change may offer and make it enhance how they do their business. That is our job. The second thing, more importantly, with the borrower is they see all lenders as being the same. They don't understand the nuances and the differences behind the scenes that we all do to get a loan through the system, the diverse products that we offer, as well as our own knowledge and expertise, which are critical factors to separate you from other lenders. So how do we get all these things into play? The most important thing to understand when you're dealing with indifference is what do you do well and how can you communicate that, but not in a statement, but in the ability to ask a question to create the need for that individual strength you believe you can offer, which differentiates yourself from other lenders. So what you need to do is come up with either a minimum top 3 to at most a top 5 list of the things that you do well in your professional opinion. And then with each item you list, as you've learned in previous sessions with me, all that is a feature. It describes what you can provide. By simply stating what you do, that will not be enough to create the need in their mind to change what they currently are doing. I have to create the need with a particular question type, a question that is answered yes or no. It's not eliciting a multiple word response. It's driving them to a singular response. So the way to frame that question becomes crucial and essential. A question to create need is a longer question. It basically paints a picture in the client's mind who is being asked the question, and then it limits their response to a singular answer, again, once yes or no. So let's say on your list, you had 10 years of lending experience. Obviously, each one of you will vary in this area, but let's take that number for our example purpose. I know that the customer, whether it be a realtor looking for an experienced loan officer or a borrower who himself or they are looking for someone that they have more trust because they're concerned on a particular transaction that's going to be difficult, experience will matter. So how do I set that up? Here's an example of a question you would ask to tee up your 10 years of experience. First, to the real estate agent. You know, Mr. and Ms. Realtor, I imagine as you consider a variety of lending sources to work with, having a loan officer who has years of experience, seen hundreds of transactions, and knows how to follow all the current guidelines and regulations, but more importantly, structure a deal to help your borrower get approved, is an important factor before you choose a loan officer. Is that correct? Now, you'll notice the question guided them to my opportunity to share then. If they say, yes, that is correct, wonderful. I've been doing this for 10 years, and you'll see the benefit of my knowledge helping you with your customer. Then you bring in the benefit once they say yes to your question. Let's take another one. Let's say you have a really good app on your ability to keep a realtor informed in real time on things that are going on through the loan system. So your second reason, you could say, is advanced technology and app easy to use for my realtor. Ms. Realtor, I imagine during the transaction you have lots of questions, and you can reach out to me at any time, and I pride myself on returning my calls in a timely manner. But if you combine my proactive communication with you and the ease of technology to access through our app all updates and status on the loan and process, that would be an important factor before you choose a lender. Wouldn't you agree? Now, again, my question tees up my accessibility and my communication, but it drives them to a point where if they say, yes, that's important, wonderful. Let me show you what our app can do and how it'll make it easy for you to understand what's going on with your buyer at any point in time and know where you're at during the transaction. So the critical thing to understand is, what do you do well? List 3 to 5 items, and with each item, think about what question could you ask for that individual item that would get someone to say yes. And you always want to frame it at the end. Isn't that correct? Wouldn't you agree? Is that right? Phrases that limit the response to a yes or no after you've asked the core question. Indifference, you have to change their mindset and create the need for a strength you provide. That gives you an opportunity to work with your realtor or your borrower. It is by far the most difficult non-buying attitude and the most frequently encountered. But now you have some ideas on how to challenge that attitude called indifference. Remember to log in to our YouTube channel, register under the site for Dennis Black, and get to be a part of a drawing we're going to offer before the end of the year for 50 individual consulting sessions that we'll work with you on as a professional for 2025. This is Dennis Black. Good luck and good selling.